Food is Great Britain.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Talk Vietnam. Now, fish and chips or afternoon tea, corned beef, or even bread and butter pudding, these are some of the British favorites, the classic dishes that we have heard for a long time. But there is a chef who has been able to create new twists and modernize these dishes and creating wonderful new dishes for us to taste. And his name is Gary Rhodes. He's here with me now. He's the British Cuisine ambassador, and he's been traveling all over the world to promote British classics. And he's here on our show today. Thank you very much, Gary, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. And welcome to Vietnam.
What a wonderful country. Already, you know, it's sort of whetting my appetite. I want to come back for more. So that's a good sign.
That's wonderful. Let's start by going into kind of the British classics. What motivated you in the first place to basically focus on British cuisine?
I think it had been forgotten for too long, because if you look back in history of a couple of hundred years ago or more, some of the dishes that, you know, were exciting, they were lively, there was influence coming in from other countries. India in particular, with some of the spices that were taking part in the food, that got forgotten for probably about 60 years or more. And I thought, now's the time to reintroduce it. And it was prime, and I was, you know, so looking forward to it because it made a big statement, and that's exactly what I wanted to do.
It's something people have forgotten, and you're trying to put it back on the map.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Do you remember the very first British classic that you looked at and you would think to yourself, I had to do something to make this new again?
Well, do you know, it was always at school. And of course you have the school meals, and it was all British cooking then. It was stews and casseroles and, you know, it could be a shepherd's pie, anything like that. But there was a dessert, actually, we used to have at school, and my mother used to make it at home.
Yes.
And she won't like me telling this story. But now and again, you know, when there's a little old bread sitting in the cupboard, it would be making bread and butter pudding. And it was really just so dry, it was overbaked, you had raisins across the top which had burnt and were bitter, and I thought, this dish could be so good. And that was one of the first dishes as a professional chef that I wanted to reintroduce.
Yes.
But make it a whole culinary experience that when you just bite into it and it is melting and soft and delicious, all those great things. And just show you all it is bread and butter and a little bit of custard, really. Exactly. But it can be heavenly to eat.
I think it all goes into the technique and, you know,
exactly
what you
that.
do to it.
Exactly that. It was about technique. It was understanding the temperature you need for it, so you don't overcook it. It won't become almost like a scrambled egg from this custard. Instead, it's, as I said, just a melting experience. Exactly. So that was the first one as a professional. I really wanted to change the face of it and get people to talk about it.
But your culinary experience began before that. You mentioned your mom.
Yes.
Cooking started at home, didn't it?
Oh, definitely, definitely. You know, it got to a situation where there was just my mother, my brother and sister, and I started to become the family cook. You know, it would be, first of all, supporting my mother in the kitchen. When she decided to go back to work, I thought, right, now it's my role. My brother had left school, he's off, so I used to have everything ready for my mother, my brother, sister. I'd pick her up from school, and then I'd concentrate on the cooking.
I read in a magazine that one of your very first success began when you were around 13 years old making Sunday roast.
Oh, goodness me, yes, you're right, you're right. You've got a very good memory. I don't know how you know all these things, but you're right. I wanted to help and take on the Sunday roast, but it was really the dessert was the first thing I wanted to really sort of look after all on my own. And there was this old cookery book, and it was a lady called Marguerite Patton, and she was, you know, back from the days in the war, she was putting all of these cookery books together, and this one was purely desserts. And she had one for a steamed lemon sponge with a lemon sauce. I thought, yes, I want to make that for the dessert, this Sunday roast. And I spent all morning, because we didn't have machines then, it was, you know, getting your spoon and the bowl and beating up together the sugar and the butter so it's light and fluffy, and then with the, you know, lemon zest and lemon juice, and making the whole, the pudding. And then one of those big old sort of pots that you're going to actually steam it in.
Yes.
Put it all in there, popped it in, and it was quite large, so it had to cook for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, just steaming away gently. And then while that's happening, I'm making this lemon sauce. They were all sitting at the table, so I have my mother, brother, sister, and I come out with this pudding, put a plate on top, turn it over, and when I lifted off that pot that it had steamed in, the aroma of the lemon just filled the room. And I looked at them all and there was this huge smile on every face, which got bigger and greater as I poured that lemon sauce that started to dribble down the sides. And it was at that moment I thought, this is what I want to do. It put a buzz inside me like I'd never experienced. It was
an epiphany.
So, absolutely, so exciting. And I thought, this is my career. Yes. I want to cook.
After making his name in the 1980s and 1990s, following the earning of his first Michelin star at the Castle Hotel in Summerest at the age of just 26, Rose has gone on to receive Michelin recognition for 10 years straight at his own Rose 24 establishment in London. By refining the English classics and placing British cuisine back on the top table, Rose inspired a whole generation of followers. Gary is also the author of some 20 cookery books. To date, he has published over 20 cookery books, including new British classics, The Complete Cookery Year, Keeping It Simple, and 365. His television career has been equally successful, with series such as Rose Arab Britain, MasterChef USA, Hell's Kitchen, Rose Across India, Rose Across the Caribbean, Rose Across Italy, the BBC series The Great British Food Revival. Gary Rowe's legendary dedication to his craft and relentless pursuit of perfection has placed him firmly at the forefront of today's culinary world. In 2006, Gary was honored with an OBE for services to the hospitality industry. For the past years, Gary has also toured the world as an ambassador for British cuisine, cooking and hosting events in India, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, Dubai and Kuwait on behalf of the Visit Britain campaign.
We talked about, the moment you realized you wanted to do cooking was that moment, the aroma of the lemon sponge filling the room.
Absolutely.
But was there another moment where you decided that you wanted to pursue a professional culinary adventure?
Something that was quite an interesting moment, that when I was actually leaving school, because in those days you didn't really tell anybody, guess what, I'm going to train and become a chef.
Exactly.
Because it wasn't looked upon as a great career. It was for those who hadn't done well at school in those days, or so they imagined, and all you could turn to was a kitchen to get some work. Well,
yes.
That wasn't how I'd approached it, but many who did. And there was also a friend of mine, and we always kept very quiet. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to be a policeman. And he said, oh, I'm going to go and be, for a lawyer or something.
Yes.
And it was at the very last few days before I left school, and I said to him, Stephen, I've got something to tell you. I'm not going to be a policeman. In fact, I'm going to be a chef, and I'm going to a catering college. He said, goodness me, he said, that is unbelievable. He said, because I'm not going in to be, trained as a lawyer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to the Ballet Rambert and I'm going to be a ballet dancer.
Wonderful.
So you can imagine we were
yes.
both a little bit shocked we kept that secret. And I think it was then that gave me an extra inspiration. It was something that, be brave,
exactly.
do it. My friend, he'd been a little bit afraid of telling others. He went on to have great success with that. And things, I can't look back. When I went to college to train for 3 years, that is what continually inspired me. I suddenly realized that this was an industry and a job where it was a continual culinary education.
Yes.
And I was going to learn something new every single day, and I still do today.
Now, one of your kind of first, working experience was in Amsterdam as
That's
a
right.
commis chef.
Yes, just as a commis chef, because all my friends were going to London. They were all going to the Savoy Hotel, the Dorchester.
Yes.
And I thought, I don't want to go, with everybody else. I started writing to restaurants, many in France, actually, and some of the great chefs, the Paul Bocuse, the Michel Guérard, the Toigre brothers, all of these great 3 Michelin star chefs. And that's a dream to even think about working with them. And I've still got the letters that tell me, no, thank you. So
All the rejection.
It was, that was again part of it, no, thank you. So I decided to join the Hilton group.
Yes.
And because Hilton were probably the #1 hotel group at that time in the, as I say, late 70s. And so I wrote to the Paris, I wrote to the Amsterdam, the Brussels, the Dusseldorf, and also one in Switzerland as well. The first one that gave me the job offer was the Amsterdam Hilton.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I don't know what the cuisine is like there, but at least I'm, working in an international country and hotel group. And with that, there won't really be a language barrier. So that, sort of tempted me as well at such a young age.
Now, one of your next experiences was in 1987 when you took a role as a head chef position at the Castle Hotel in Somerset. Now, I believe this was where you kind of truly delve into the British classics, isn't it?
It was, because, it was a part of the country that, there we were in the West Country, so this little kind of town. But everything was locally sourced. So with almost a 20-mile radius, apart from getting some fish from Cornwall or some lobsters from Scotland, but mostly really all of the butchery and fruit and vegetables, where possible, we buy local. And I love that. And because they're homegrown, it should be home cooking. Why am I going to take lovely English asparagus that's only with us for 2 months of the year during May and June? Why do I want to actually start doing a French dish with English asparagus? I don't want to do that. And likewise, when I was getting, lobsters from Scotland and all of the other fish, and also with that, different scallops from that part of the country, English strawberries, apples, we had the Scottish raspberries coming later in the year, all of these great flavours, and I thought, this is what I want to do. It was really exciting, and it was to try and make a huge statement, but refine the British cooking. So from those days of growing up, because Amsterdam was predominantly sort of French Nouvelle Cuisine style, college was classic kind of French style, so now I wanted to take British classics, but take a little influence from the Nouvelle Cuisine in terms of refinement. And yeah, that was the beginning, and I've never gone back on it now, so I've continued.
It would be roast chicken.
Great Stilton.
Asparagus.
Spiced smoked salmon.
Cheese.
Best end of roe deer, baked over Douglas fir.
Cornish pasty.
Probably an apple.
Tandoori pigeon served in a Yorkshire pudding cup.
It's about the produce, it's about meat, it is about 2 veg.
I still love crumble. To me, I'm obsessed by crumble. I think it's a beautiful dish which should be known across the world.
I think most people think we overcook our beef. Everyone just eats fish and chips and soggy vegetables. I don't think it's certainly not accurate. We certainly do great fish and chips still.
The British chefs knows where his food comes from, and the consumer too.
And I think the food scene's just getting better and better. We're using more local stuff. We're really going back to artisan producers and not relying so much on the supermarkets. Markets are coming back. People are going to their local shops.
Food before was separated from our life. Now it's part of it. It's part of our consciousness here as well.
I don't think anybody can take away that from us, and I feel very good that I stand at that podium as a British person.
Now, for Vietnamese audiences watching the show now, how would you explain British cuisine at its core? How's it different or similar to other cuisines?
I think, you have many cuisines across the world that can feature at any time of the year in many dishes. I think the true British, you have to stick to the seasons.
Yes.
Because you want to make sure, as I did in those days at the Castle Hotel.
The produce are fresh.
Correct. And if I want to do an Eton mess, for instance, I want to make sure they're English strawberries at their very best. So when you're getting into that late June, July, August, they are a dream to eat. They're rich, they're sweet, they're juicy, and I don't think there's a better strawberry in the world. Keep it British. It comes from our soils. So let's show it off. And that for me really is how I'd explain British cooking. Stick to homegrown as much as possible. Obviously, we don't grow lemons and oranges, and if you want to add a squeeze of lemon in something, I mean, that's what you call sort of, we don't really produce olive oil either, as you know. So there's certain things that you can borrow from other countries, but the main features, I think, have to be British to really show it off. Definitely.
Now, you have mentioned so many dishes up to this point that myself and I believe many of the audiences are getting quite curious about some of the dishes. So if you don't mind, would you please share with us some of the demonstration here?
Of course. First of all, I love what you've actually put together here because, if you don't mind, I want to dress this up. Is that okay?
Absolutely no problem.
But this couldn't be more classic because, you've taken here something, a combination of, apples, and with, you've got celery, you've got nuts, you've got the blue cheese, and that must be from Somerset.
It is indeed, Somerset Blue.
Somerset Blue, you see, couldn't be better. It couldn't be more British, could it? Which is fantastic. So, this is one of the beauties of great British cooking. You can really be inventive, but keep things simple and just keep it kind of rustic style. Little touch of the nuts just sprinkled in. Just around it, so you can imagine eating these flavours, that nuttiness. What's the great thing about this? It's not actually, not everything has to be on a stove.
No.
Yeah, that's the beauty, isn't it? We can literally just cook these wonderful ingredients. Let's get a bit of the blue cheese. Oh, this feels so creamy and rich. Right, a few little croutons just trickled around. We can keep it quite rustic like this. Little touch, notice here, sea salt. Where does this come from? It comes from UK waters. So you can imagine there, you've got that lovely little bite coming from that crunch. Little touch of black pepper, just to give it a little bit of fire, add another dimension to it. And I'm going to add a little touch of this.
Cider dressing, another classic from Somerset.
There you go, chef. You see? Now, this man is telling me everything that I need to know. So we've got cider, we've got the blue cheese, we've got walnuts, we've got celery, we've got apples.
Perfect combination.
We have got here a little dream on a plate, don't you think?
Doesn't get any better. Doesn't get any better.
It doesn't really, does it? I mean, now let's put a little touch of this dressing just on top. And a great thing is that you've already dressed those beautiful leaves. Next thing, we're going to go around with just a nice little touch of these leaves. Like that. Maybe a nice little sprig. It looks like a watercress sitting on top.
It is indeed.
It is. And now, just to finish, if I can take another teaspoon. So let's just put a little drizzle of that. And this adds another edge to it. You can imagine, here I'm using that little kind of Italian touch, or it can be Spanish, but the great thing about an Italian olive oil, it adds that little extra sweetness to it. It's not quite as harsh. And I love that with this particular dish. It actually turns that creamy cider dressing into more of a vinaigrette. And that, for me, is a simple British salad. There we have the blue cheese, apple, celery and walnut salad.
Now, where do you normally get your inspiration?
I think actually from the people around you, and you're always looking up to other chefs. There's some chefs out there that I still dream of even trying to match, and I probably never will because they're so skillful. And everywhere I go throughout the world, I want to go and eat in restaurants, and I want to get that fresh little sort of buzz because you can come through little stale moments. But when you've eaten at a restaurant, I walk away thinking, oh, I get so upset because why didn't I think of that, And there's, Paris in particular. And I love going to Paris because there's so many good restaurants all within a walking distance.
Still a hub of culinary arts.
Well, it is. You've got some of the greatest restaurants there. There's many I've been to many times over. And, when you're actually tasting the most sensational ingredients which are in season at that time, I get such an inspiration and a buzz, and I do get upset that I didn't think of it first, but it gives me, sometimes that can inject such a fresh thought into my mind that just one little point of that dish has given me a whole new idea for a completely different dish. And that is my buzz then. That is saying to me, still got it, I can do it, And it gives you that extra kind of drive and you continue to cook and you want to come home immediately and start making that dish.
Wow, continue getting some inspiration. Now, you have been the British Cuisine Ambassador. How is it to kind of fill this role and introduce the cuisine of the nation to different parts of the world?
I think, the great thing is that you are meeting so many people worldwide. You are having that opportunity to really stand up for what you believe in, and I love. I'm very, very proud to be British, and I want to share that with everybody. I want to show that It is Great Britain.
Yes.
And don't forget, if you think of that word great, it's GR, which stands for Gary Rhodes, and eat.
Yes, Gary Rhodes.
So
eats.
it fits, doesn't it?
That's
so
wonderful.
It seemed the right thing to do. You've got Gary Rhodes and eat, and I should share that with everybody worldwide.
That's a great slogan. You should stick to that slogan.
I think we'll keep it as one word, but you know, people don't often notice that. So
Yes. Now, as we talk about your visit to different countries, obviously one of your destinations this time is Vietnam. As part of his trip here, Gary has joined in the British Food and Drink Festival. So we'll join him in the following to see how British cuisine has attracted Vietnamese people.
I'm going to show you just why food is so great.
Michelin star chef Gary Rhodes brought the best of British flavors to the town as part of the whirlwind tour of activities in Hanoi by a well-attended cooking demonstration.
Just using some lovely summer berries.
While cooking these two British dishes, Gary Rhodes also gave cooking tips to the audience.
Of course, delicious English strawberries. When you look at this line, that tells you which bit is raw, which bit is cooked. So once you've got it halfway through, you can turn it over. And then I literally turn the power out of the stove because the heat in the pan continues the cooking process, and then you're always guaranteed to have it succulent.
Trong nghề của chúng tôi, vani thì thường là sử dụng trong món dessert, món tráng miệng. Nhưng với anh này thì anh đầu bếp này, bếp trưởng này, anh ấy đã pha trộn vani, anh ấy đã cho vào món chính và tôi rất là ấn tượng với cách pha trộn đấy.
As part of the event, the online cooking recipe of love cooking contest gathered many British recipe lovers to cook and share British traditional and modern dishes on its Facebook fan page. This contest helped promote British cuisine to Vietnamese people via the internet.
Cái giải thưởng này có sức tưởng tượng đối với cả mình, bởi vì nó là một phần thưởng mà mình cảm thấy là mình mong ước rất là lâu rồi. Mình thì làm được rất là nhiều loại bánh, thế nhưng mình muốn là tại vì cuộc thi này yêu cầu phải có sự tương tác. Tương tác tức là khi mình làm món ăn và phải có tất cả các bạn bè trên Facebook của mình là có thể làm được cái món ăn của mình và họ yêu thích thì họ sẽ bình chọn cho mình. Thì mình chọn món, mình nghĩ là mình sẽ chọn một món mà nó gần gũi nhất với cả ẩm thực Việt Nam, đó là món heo cay bì giòn kiểu Anh.
By different means, either via social network or table-served dishes, British food is getting closer to Vietnamese diners.
How was the festival experience introducing the food to the Vietnamese audience?
Well, it's been amazing, actually. I'm really surprised at the numbers that we've produced for. And when you're doing a cookery demonstration in front of just a local audience, it was nice again to see those smiles that my mother and family had all those years ago, because they can see what's being created. They want to discover more, and I'm just showing them the simplicity of some of these great dishes. Some are long, slow cooking methods. What I wanted to show them here is that you don't have to take on that every time. It can be a simple little finish in a pan, but it shows off really what Britain's all about. I want to show them this is a Scottish salmon. This is what we're going to do with it, and keep it with just those local little ingredients as well. So yeah, it's been I'm hoping it's going to put some drive into everybody wanting to go and see what British food is about. And even if they haven't and won't, it is about making sure they understand there is a cuisine in Britain.
Exactly.
You know, there is a British cooking.
As we said, it's quite, a little bit forgotten. Or not known.
Been. Well, it's true. You know, I think in certain parts of Europe, it's got a reputation now. Even in the USA, it's got a reputation. Now you might even go into Hong Kong or Singapore, where there's endless expats who might want to eat British. But generally, a lot of other countries, as imagine I was in Tokyo last year and showing off British cuisine there, and they certainly never imagined there was any such thing as British cooking. So, likewise, with the opportunity came to come to Vietnam, which is a country I've always wanted to come to, because all I've ever heard, it's beautiful, it's stunning, you have to go. Here I am. And definitely, I want to come back for more.
Now, also part of Gary's trip here in Vietnam, at the British Food and Drink Festival, he became a judge for the rating of the making of English afternoon tea and scones. So we'll take a look at that in the following.
So what's the concept of today? Homemade scones with clotted cream and strawberry jam. Absolutely delicious. The chef who's going to be judging with me, the executive chef of the Metropole Hotel, and that is Nicholas. So Nicholas, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Gary. Nice to see you.
And you too. You too. So we have two teams. On my right here, we have, with our ambassador, we have the food bloggers. And on the left, well, this team we've titled as the Fig Team. And fig, not because they're fruity and delicious, but because food is great. And that's what this team is all about. So let's get ready, steady, cook.
We're using a traditional scone recipe with flour, sugar, butter, baking powder and milk and a little bit of vanilla extract, but we're also using a Vietnamese ingredient as well, which is hoa bưởi, to add a Vietnamese flavour to our British scones.
Đây cũng là một cái loại hoa đặc trưng của mùa, các mùa khác không hề có. Nó ngâm cái tinh chất hoa bưởi để sử dụng nó khi nhào cùng với bột để mà từng cái lớp bánh khi cắn ra thì nó có cái vị thơm ngon của hoa bưởi.
I think it's quite interesting, like you said, that this team is doing with the mixer, this team is doing it by hand. This one looks a bit doughy at the moment.
Yes.
This one looks nice, actually quite nice.
So we make 3 different kind of scones, and this one will be for the lemon and orange.
The traditional one just has some fruit in it and it's plain. But the other ones we've done are with lemon and with chocolate and orange. So to add some fruit, but also some chocolate, some luxury to the recipes.
It's hot, huh? Okay.
So he's managing close. See if an offer comes up or whatever. I don't. Great.
Very good.
That has, the jam is very nice, full of strawberry flavour, and you also have a really nice, light, buttery finish to it. Still lovely and moist, not too crumbly. The whole combination of those 3 flavours, they all complement one another beautifully, don't they?
They do indeed.
You know, you've got that lovely little crispiness on the outside of the scone. It's really lovely and soft in the centre with the fruitiness. And then you can imagine that with thick cream and the rich flavour of raspberries.
Very good.
It's been a tough competition because, 2 totally different teams, just as Nicholas said a little bit earlier. One which has kept homely and classic, and the other which has been a little bit more venturous like a restaurant. And of course, we're both attached to restaurants, so it has been tough for us. So perhaps you can announce to all of us, Nicholas, who is the winning team that we have both agreed.
It has been a very difficult decision, but we both agree that traditional was the way that we went forward. So it's the food bloggers.
It's the food bloggers. And now we're ready to offer you.
Bây giờ thì cảm thấy rất là vui và rất là hạnh phúc. Nhờ có anh đã chia sẻ những cái bí kíp của chính người mẹ của mình về chiếc bánh scone truyền thống nên là đã có thể làm được kết quả như ngày hôm nay.
We hope that all the Vietnamese viewers watching this will be inspired to go out and try making their own scones and have it with some delicious English tea.
How did you find, in terms of, you know, the Vietnamese reaction to the British food? And
I think it was a great experience, even just judging the scone competition, because then suddenly you had everybody up onto that stage, all locals, and those scones were gone in seconds.
Yes.
And I think that's a great example. I think also, you know, I did a huge cookery demonstration in a shopping mall, and so you had nothing but locals. When those dishes, we were sending out little pots for them to try, and you could see they wanted to come back for more. So I think it's one of the greatest applause you can possibly have as a chef, is when people truly want to eat your food. And we had the stage again there absolutely raided, and everybody trying to fight over a little taste of something. And you couldn't ask for bigger applause than that, could you?
yes. Here in Vietnam, there is a generation of new young Vietnamese chefs, two of whom you've met at the judging of the making of the English afternoon tea. What is your advice to these, you know, young cooks? I mean, they're starting out just as you were in the late 70s, kind of embarking on new challenges where culinary arts is just starting to bud here in Vietnam.
I think if you've got that, you know, make sure that you ask yourself, I think they should all take a long, hard look in the mirror and say to themselves, do I really have this true passion and this true love for food and want to share it with others and cook for others? And if they're answering themselves back with a definite yes, then this is the career for them. It is something that can involve a lot of hard work, long hours, dedication, but I always believe that what you put in now you'll benefit from later.
Yes.
You can't do it the other way around, where you want everything to be easy now because you're young and you want to be vibrant and out and about every single night, and then hope that things are going to come for you later on in life. Quite often you've missed those opportunities.
Exactly.
So I think it's take hold of this opportunity, discover, start to go to those markets on a Saturday morning instead of actually lying in bed when you're a student and trying to take that day off. Go to that market, have a look, start to ask questions about those ingredients, educate yourself. I always remember at my college, I'm getting excited again now, but I always remember at college I'd walk around with this little book and it's called The Repertoire de la Cuisine. And it told you everything about every classic, because I was taught classics in those days, but gave you every little detail on every classic recipe. And I would carry that around with me and never let go, and always wanted to look down and see if I could discover, oh, I love that. That dish is with mussels, and into the mussels it's also got clams and this and that. I think, oh, I can taste that already. You know, it inspires you, and I think it's about really realising and recognising this industry is about dedication. And as I said, later in life, you'll benefit from that and enjoy every moment. And that's what I'm doing now. Still cooking, but I'm enjoying every bit of it.
Yes, a lot of patience, a lot of hard work, but most of all, a lot of drive.
That's what it is. And remember, the greatest accolade, forget all the awards, forget everything, is that smile you just gave me.
Yes.
And that, for me, is the greatest accolade of all.
Yes,
you know.
Going back again to that aroma and those smiles.
There's nothing better.
So as part of his trip here, Gary has also had some time to discover more about Vietnam. We'll follow his footsteps in the following report.
Going in there, it was lively. It had every kind of ingredient that a chef can imagine. It was incredible just looking around. There's everything. It's a chef's dream. And what do you do with these?
They are bamboo shoots. You shred them down.
Yep.
Thinly slice them like that, and you can put them in your consomme.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Lovely, yeah. You feel that, goodness me. I mean, that's beautiful, isn't it?
So fat.
Yeah, really, really plump. I mean, that's lovely. Picking up some of the ingredients and the nose and the smell, and I was thinking I want to cook with this, you know. Look at that, absolutely lovely.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Mangoes are superb as well.
Oh yeah. Oh. And so juicy. Look at this. I saw these tiny, tiny, tiny little crabs, and he was talking about the protein only that's taken from that, you know, and you lose the water, you take the protein, and then you might add that to a soup to add another strength to it and depth to it. That, for me, is good detail.
Do you know what? It's not the French that taught us how to eat snails.
I love snails.
I think we taught the French how to eat snails.
Big statement there, big statement. It's a good job I'm not a Frenchman, isn't it, you know?
Oh, I'm not telling you that.
No, no. That is so tender, packed with flavour. Just eating the fish that was cooked there in front of me, just in a few minutes, heaven, chef's heaven. You can smell that fruit up there and all the different flavours and the little fishy edge to it. I mean, look at all this, delightful. I think there was something from the banana tree, the root from that, which was finely shredded and put into the soup. When I tasted it at the market, it really didn't give me anything. Now, tasting it here, what a difference in flavour. Oh, goodness me. Suddenly it became alive. This now is without doubt my favourite. I love the rice noodles, the flavour coming from that liquor that we've cooked the fish in, the succulence of the fish. It's juicy, it's rich, and I'm getting all like a little schoolboy getting excited about it. It's fantastic. Definitely a favourite. Divine. I'm loving this. I'm loving it.
Coming back to the UK, what would be kind of your story to your friends who would ask, what is Vietnamese cuisine like?
I would tell them it's something you have to try, and you have to try it here in Vietnam.
Exactly.
You know, there are some restaurants in London, I'm sure in other parts of the UK, where you'll have something with a Vietnamese influence. It's not the same. So I will be, you know, becoming hopefully an ambassador for Vietnam very soon, because I'm going to be doing nothing but promoting and telling everybody it's a country you have to come to.
It's a two-way street.
Oh, without any shadow of a doubt. It's got, there's so much personality in the city itself. And when you have the opportunity to eat the food as well. And I'm hoping to do a little bit more of that later on today. Taste some great little Vietnamese food. So it's exciting. You know, there's always more to see. And I'm sure they're going to, if I do try some tonight, it'll be totally different to what I have already had. So yeah, it keeps my drive, my passion for discovering food alive. This is a wonderful country, and I want to say thank you to everybody for making us so welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Talk Vietnam, for coming to Vietnam, sharing a British cuisine, British culture with us. And we hope that, as you said, that you'll come back here along with Chef Nicolas and cook for us and basically bring British cuisine even more well-known to Vietnamese people.
Well, I certainly hope so, and I want to thank you. It's been wonderful speaking with you today, and definitely I'm going to come back.
Yes, again, as Gary said, Great Britain stands for Gary Rhodes Eats. So we hope that this edition of Talk Vietnam with Gary has inspired you to learn more about not only British cuisine, but also find your own passion in your kitchen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Talk Vietnam, and we hope to see you more next time. Goodbye for now.